All right, how's everyone doing today? Thank you all for attending. My name is Eyal Friedman. I work on the Collect team. I'm a field technician and a QA analyst. I do a little bit of both. When I'm not in the field, I help test, and my main focus is EQuIS Collect. So we'll start with EQuIS Collect being a brand new product. For those of you that know our current data collection software, that is Edge, EQuIS Collect is quite a bit different. Some of the main differences would be mainly that you can collect any data using EQuIS Collect. Once again, you have any EQuIS format available. You can use this on a phone, tablet, or a PC, as long as the PC is running Windows 10, and it'll work on iOS and Android devices as well. I also have Monica on the call in case we do have some further questions regarding the differences between Edge and EQuIS Collect later on. Monica works mainly on the Edge line. So EQuIS Collect is entirely different, that it's really fully flexible and very functional. And what I mean by fully flexible is when I discuss collecting any data, a good example would be I can go into Enterprise Online, build a form to be used for EQuIS, for the Collect application itself. And that form, let's say, can be a grocery shopping list. And I can make a checklist with all the different grocery items I would want. And I can push that to whomever might be out doing some grocery shopping or on the way home from work. They can log in, check the form, and select which items they have purchased, push the information back as long as it's being pushed to somewhere in the database. I can then see that information just as they push it and make some space in the fridge or come up with a recipe depending on which groceries they've collected. It's also fully flexible if I want to take this into the field and go collect some well monitoring site information, or if I want to do some mineral exploration and collect data from some geotechnical basis. So the workflow is also quite different than what you might have in Edge. The workflow requires two main parts, where you have Enterprise Online, where you'll build your forms in the Collect dashboard, where you have a lot of flexibility in how you want to assign the forms. And then you also have the actual application itself, where the user will be able to have access to specified forms, be able to collect data in the field, and push it back. So on the right-hand side, we have a simple graphic of the workflow. On the left-hand side is a little more detailed step-by-step direction. So if we go over it quickly, you can quickly and easily download the application from any of the app stores or Microsoft Store. You'll log in using the EQuIS credentials. Any forms that are assigned to a specific user group will be available as long as whoever logs in is a part of that user group. They can select a form from the list. They will have two lists to select from, forms and templates. If they select from the template, it will open up a form ready to go. If they've selected a form, it might have already been assigned to them and set from the server, which I'll discuss in a couple of minutes. They then enter their data and push the forms back. And on the opposing end, on Enterprise, you can also view the status of the form as it's pushed and also on the device. So if we go in quickly, I'm going to show you live what both ends look like. So if we begin here, this is where we log in online where the form building occurs. So this is the first step where you have on the left-hand side menu items, and on the right-hand side, the page will open up depending on which menu item you select. First thing to note is your user groups. So this is where you will assign specific users and where they will have different groups, and you can manage which forms are associated to which user in which group. To manage the groups is simply clicking at the top right, and you can create new groups and new users as you go. At the top, we have the analytics. This gives you an overview of any data that has been pushed and you can further drill down in each section. And each section gives you a little header. So this is the active users, active types per facility, active formats per facility. And if we scroll down, shows you the latest location from where a user has pushed information from. And then shows you the active users. And further, once again, you can drill down and get further information. The map feature also will show you information from where data has been pushed and will give you access to view any of the report information associated with that data. You can also access your reports directly from the map as well. The map has the standard features on the left of zooming in and out, and the extent that you see on the map can be adjusted for the different facilities you have. So if I wanted to readjust the extent of the map, I can simply move over, maneuver to the setup menu, update the extent, and this will now simply readjust the map. So every time I log in on this enterprise site, the map will show up with this location to begin with. So you can set up the map extent for the region you have any sampling events for. As well, any of the layers for the reports that are generated can be viewed and seen on the menu on the left, and they can be adjusted through the setup. So if I maneuver back to the setup, I have the reports available to be seen. So if I switch from report odor 5 to odor 4, and I click OK, it will update and show me for that specific report, any location where information has been pushed. You can also sort the start date and end date of the information you want visible on the map. Reports, as associated with the maps, reports, any report that has been published to the enterprise site that is available in EQuIS can be chosen. And to do that, you simply maneuver to the top right, maneuver into your report chooser, and these are the current reports available. These reports you can specify to forms as you continue to build them. And I will show you that as we go. Now, the bulk of the work in Enterprise comes from the form designer and the form section themselves. Now, the form designer, this is where you build the templates for the particular users, for the field crews, and where you assign them. And this is where all the logic comes in. So to show you the form designer, currently, these are the forms that have been worked on, designed, or published on this enterprise site. And as we go through, you see you have the different headers at the top. These can all be sorted, simply just clicking on the header, and you can sort either by the format, by the type, or by the version number, also by the date and who created. So the format defines the formats available in Enterprise, and any format can be used that is published and available. And you can also build, as you see, there are forms with no formats assigned and no format specified. In this case, if you wanted to do any mapping, you would have to specify a format and then map the form accordingly. But forms can be built custom without a format and mapped later. This is the flexibility that you have. Also, any form that has been worked with a format, you can also still build custom fields within the form and still choose to map where you want. EDP, this denotes if you have selected a format, if you have specified for the form to go directly through EDP. You can also not have the form go through EDP and choose to look at the data yourself and push the data yourself. The status symbol denotes what level of work the form is currently at. The sheet notes that it is still in a design mode. The form is still being worked on, and the administrator, the user, still wants to add some information or some logic behind the scenes. Testing, this indicator here denotes test mode. When the form is near completion or ready to be tested to make sure that it is valid and all the logic behind the scenes are working properly, you can put the form into test mode, then access it on the device and be able to run a test and push information and make sure that everything from the logic to the mapping is working correctly. If everything goes correctly, you can then go ahead and publish the form. Once a form is published, there is no more work that can be done. The form is official. If you find that there's errors, you can always go ahead and make a copy of the exact same form, fix the errors that might be there, or make any adjustments that are necessary, and then republish that form. And you can simply just change the version number and then disable the previous form. To actually edit within a form, whether it's in test or design mode, simply click on the edit button and it will take you into the form, and I will show you that in 1 second. The preview mode allows you to preview what the form would look like on the device. So if I click on the preview, I see this form has one main form section. I click on that, and it shows me the fields that are available on the device. So if I go ahead and open up a form in edit mode, this one is in test mode currently, you can see you have your form information. Any field that is in red is required. You have your description, and then you have the structure of your form, parent and child relationships and relational data. If I go ahead and open up a section, and I'll show you some of the logic behind the scenes, these are the current fields set in this form. And for example, some of these fields here are all based on logic using formulas. So I'll go ahead and open up one of these fields to show you. So within a specific field, this field was built from custom, but even if it was built based off of a format, you have your field name and then some information regarding the caption description as the user would see. Your field type, where there's a multitude of field types, quite the variety, and some of the logic you can put into the fields themselves, predicated on which field type you select. Some of this logic is standard. In this case, the formula is available because I selected a formula field. Just to show you, this is an example of one of the formulas behind the scenes doing some calculations of the max value found associated with these fields. And this is just one example of some of the logic that can be done. It can be quite complex, and the reason it's set this way is to allow the administrator full functionality in designing the form and making it as simple for the field crew as possible, automating anything that can be automated and calculating anything that can be calculated. And that way it mitigates any issues or mistakes that can happen in a field environment, which can be quite hectic. If we maneuver over to the form section, so once again, you'd want to make sure really quickly that the form is assigned to a particular user group and that it is ready to be published, and that will make it ready for that user group to see it. Now, to create a form, there's two ways. One can be done directly on the device, which I'll show you when I bring my iPad to show you an example of a form. And the other can be done directly from the server. And to do that from the server is simply clicking on the new button and selecting which template from the form designer you'd want to use. In this case, the only published template is gauging log. So that's a key note. The template has to be published to be able to be used. You can enter any name you would want. Let's go with gauging log and select the gauging log template and select which facility, which I'll come to in a minute, and which user groups you want the form to be assigned to. Now, creating a form this way allows you to add attachments directly. So the field crew, when they log into the device, they will see the form and the attachments available for them. So in case there's a landmark to be spotted for the field environment, you can add a picture of the landmark in for the field crew to know. As well, any form that's created through Enterprise on this end through the server allows all of the report information to be collected collectively and viewed as one overall report. And what I mean by that is if you have 3 field crews out all using the same form, where all of the data is related to one another, but it's in 3 different environments, if you create the form from the server, you allow all of that data to be viewed in one report. If the user creates the report directly from opening a template on the device, then you will only get reports that are locally generated, and they will not be able to be combined unless physically combined into one report. So there's 2 ways of setting it up. As well, in the Forms tab, to show you all the information you have here. So this is right now showing a form gauging log with the format EQEDD assigned to the test user group, was pushed, and is still being run through EDP. So uploaded shows you your filter where you have green, orange, and red. Green means that the information has been pushed through to the database and there has been no issues. Orange means it is still being worked on, and red denotes that there might have been an issue. And you can always take a look into the database and find out what might be the issue. You can also download the EDD to do a comparison. If you do not have your data going directly through EDP, you will have an upload arrow here where you can then send it to EDP manually yourself. And over here on the reports, you have the reports button, which will allow you to download any report that has been associated. And this, the origin, this is denoting that this form was created from the server. If it was created locally, you would have the local indicator that you typically see on the map for your current location. This is a short run through of Enterprise, although there is still a lot more to be discussed. I will show you what things might look like on the application themselves. So the report that we just saw that was still being run through EDP, this is what the user would see on the actual application itself. So this is denoting that the form is still being checked by EDP. I can simply go back into this form if I just simply tap on it and go in and see what information is currently here. So this is showing me the current record that was pushed. I can go back in and take a look at the information that was set in this form. So here, for example, to show you another aspect of logic, the weather service, if I go in and reset, so to show you, we will grab weather for this current location that I'm at from a weather service using an API call on a service feature that we have set in. So using the formula, it will call to the local weather station, and in this case, grab me the current air temperature and the cloud cover. And you can further specify which information you want. The arrows at the top simply allow you to just move to the next field. So the next field was project number. If I want to get back to the form to be able to scroll or see the available fields, I just click Save. It will save that field and take me back to the form. In building the form, you can also build sections so that the users in the field can simply just hide certain sections and only see what's visible to them or what they want to make visible for working on that section. Once completed all this information, I can simply close and just move to the next section. So if we save this, and the arrow down here will denote if I've made any changes, I can further push more information, or I can go back to the home screen, which will be the Forms tab. So if I go back in, that was the form that had been currently pushed. I'd made changes to the information, and I can then repush the form. If I want to see what other templates or forms might be available to me, I can check here. These are the templates that are available. As you saw before, this is denoting that this is still in a test mode. This, the gauging log, is fully published and has already been downloaded to the device. And this secondary gauging log is currently in test mode, and I can download the form to the device if I want to test it. Clicking on any of these templates, once downloaded, will open that up into a form. So to show you, I'll make a secondary gauging log. We'll call this gauging log test. And I will choose the facility I want to send that form to and click Save. This has now just created a secondary gauging log. Even if I don't enter information, if I click on the Home tab, I should be able to see it in the Forms tab. And there's the gauging log test. Now, if we click on the menu, I can go back to the current form that I was last working on, as long as it has not been deleted. And that will take me to the gauging log test that I had just opened. Back to the menu will take me to the settings, and this is where I have a couple of different options. And this is where it allows you to jump to the next field. Sorry, here it is. Allows you to jump to the next field, jump through only the empty fields, or to loop through them. And this just makes it easier for the user in the field to enter information quick. Now back to the Homes page. So if I wanted to go ahead and continue to push information, I could. And in doing so, I would end up seeing the form pop back up onto Enterprise. And this is where the admin would be able to see any information pushed right away. And they could then go to the map once the information is cleared and see where it's been on the map. And that is a brief overview of Collect and Enterprise. And I will touch on one more thing actually before we go to some questions, is a way to think about it, and I'll go over this briefly now. These are your dashboards like you would typically have in Enterprise, where you have your administration, and Collect will have its own dashboard. So I am currently working in the Collect ALEC dashboard out of the Alive facility. So the dashboard and the facility are your macro filters. You can have multiple facilities and then have multiple user groups assigned to different forms that can be worked at with different facilities. So these are your macros, and then your user groups and your forms are your micro filters. How you decide to separate your user groups and your facilities and your forms is entirely based on the projects that you'll have. And that is a brief rundown of Enterprise for Collect with the Collect dashboard and the Collect application. There's a lot more that can be covered, but I'd prefer to go to some questions and be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Awesome, thank you. We have one question from Michael Kelly, and he asks, what level of access or permission is required to do things like create or manage groups?
So to work off Enterprise in here, you would typically need administrator access. And that would give you access to log into Enterprise, be able to set other users, and then manage any of the forms in the user groups.
So I don't have other questions in the question pane. Is there, would you like me to launch any of the polls that we had prepared? I can certainly do that. Okay.
Definitely.
So to get all of you interacting with us a bit, we've got a couple of questions that we're curious about. The first is, what kind of field environments would you be interested in implementing Collect? Now, of course, I only gave you 4 choices. So if your 4 choices aren't listed there, or if your choice of preference isn't listed there, please let us know in the question pane. And while that poll is going on, it looks like we've got a couple of other questions here as well. Vern asks that Azure looks to be a requirement for this, and is this compatible with version 6.6?
That's a good question. They are running right now a compatibility test with 6.6 where you can run it in the background and still use 6.6 database. that is in testing. Things are looking pretty good. I can get you a more definitive answer probably in the next day or so.
Yep. And
But I believe
Azure,
the answer would be yes.
and in terms of the question about Azure being a requirement, you can certainly run collect on if you're an on-prem situation as well, but you will, I think, need to be no, based on what Neil just said, probably 6.6 would be okay, but we'll find out more soon.
It runs like a dashboard, so it shouldn't be an issue. And I believe they're running the 6.6 test right now, actually.
Yep. And I don't believe that Azure is required.
Yeah, I don't believe so, but we'll get you a definitive answer in the next day or so for sure.
Excellent. And then Michael has a follow-up question, so that access would be given administrator access to all of enterprise for the managing of groups that he asked about earlier.
That's a little out of my realm, but I will definitely get the answer.
Okay.
I know it runs through the administrator dashboard, but that's not something I have worked on personally.
Okay.
I can show very quickly. So typically, like the other enterprise administrator dashboard, adding the users in here, I can find out as to if you can specify what access you want given to them in terms of collect versus other areas. And I think that can be accommodated, but I'll get a more definitive answer.
Excellent. Colin has a question. He says, I may have missed this. Colin, you didn't. But when do you expect to see it fully integrated with SPM and field devices like probes and loggers and the like?
Probes and loggers, I do not have an answer. SPM, we are actually in the process after Collect is released in the next couple of updates, which are not going to be yearly anymore. We're going to be doing updates more periodically as features are developed and tested properly, and large enough features, we will be doing updates as we go. And SPM is one that's being worked on right now as well. And that's integrating with SPM to be able to do all the automation that SPM can do for you with Collect.
Excellent. Go ahead and share out that first poll response. It looks like most folks are interested in groundwater investigation.
Okay.
A couple of folks said other.
Okay.
So I can go ahead and launch the next question. This is more related to whether or not you have cellular available at any of your sampling environments. So if you would let us know whether or not your sampling locations are in or out of cellular range. There isn't a limitation for that for Collect. You can use Collect whether or not you do have access to the sampling or
Yes.
to the cellular data.
Collect can be used online or offline. And even if you work on it offline, once you get back to a connection, you can simply then just push all your data.
Okay. It looks like we've got another question from Michael asking if there's any movement on Windows authentication for Collect.
That's a very good question. We're currently in some Windows testing right now, so I can definitely get some more information regarding that.
In terms of that next poll, let me go ahead and share that out. Looks like we've got many folks have sampling environments outside of cell range. Some folks only have a few. Looks like, based on a comment from Michael, between many and a few, and then a few people have total coverage for cell range for their sampling environment. That's great. Okay.
That's a good sampling environment.
And Colin has asked what has been partially integrated for SPM as per that first slide.
As per the first slide, let's go. I have not done specific testing on that. I believe that is what they are working on right now. And that is SPM Enterprise and integrating SPM Enterprise with Collect.
So we've got another poll. Well, we've got, I promise we're almost done. I appreciate the responses in these. This poll is asking, what device are you most likely to use with Collect? Our follow-up will be asking what your operating system will be. So this is just the object that your field crews will have in their hands, whether it's going to be a mobile device, a tablet, or a laptop.
Am I allowed to intervene? This is Monica.
Yes.
Of course.
And
Yes, go ahead, Monica.
thank you. Thanks. Regarding SPM Enterprise, so far, the SPM Enterprise that we have, and it's not fully integrated, but it's going to be with Collect. It's only the organizer portion of SPM, which means that through our SPM Enterprise, we're able to assign tasks to crews, to assign resources to crews, to plan when they have to be in the field, to highlight any conflict that would exist between assigning resources to crews that are operating at the same time and may be some overlapping into any kind of resources. So we are not currently and not going to happen right now supporting any of the functionalities that are more complex in SPM desktop, which is like creating the contracts, assigning the samples, and so forth. So we don't have it for now. That extended capability is going to come with the next releases.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Monica.
Yep.
Thank you, Monica.
So it looks like we've got a mixture here. We also had a couple of responses in terms of the devices in the question pane. Some looks like Kelly says that they'll be using a mixture of all three device types, and Michael says tablet with some mobile. So it just, I guess it depends on what they've got in their arsenal.
Okay, good to know.
And then our last poll, as I promised, is asking what particular platform, what operating system are you likely to favor? If it's a mix of platforms, let us know which mix. Of course, Windows is Windows 10. I should have denoted that there. And there's also a question here from Colin asking if Collect can honor action levels.
Can we specify action levels?
Colin, do you mean like the field action levels, kind of like what we saw with Edge? Yes.
Yeah, I can answer that question.
I was about to go over to you. You know a little bit more on the Edge action level side.
Yes, so we definitely can assign action levels. We can configure the fields that are designed to collect, in this case, let's say some field parameters. And for those, we can design specifically through the functionalities of those fields, the action levels. So the answer is yes.
Excellent.
Thank you, Monica.
It looks like we've got a good mix of different platforms that folks are going to use. Colin says that Windows, Android, and iOS Michael said Windows, Android, and iOS. Kelly said that there'll also be a mix depending on the device and the field technician. So it's sort of all over the board. It's a good thing that we've got support on all the platforms.
Yes, yes.
And it looks like Michael has a question that will be easier to articulate by speaking. So let me unmute you, Michael, and you can go ahead.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. So this kind of goes back to my original question on the groups and everything. Maybe if I specify a bit more, it might be easier to answer. What we're looking at doing once 7 is released and we get some training from you guys is to release kind of the development and testing and whatever of forms to project and field staff. One of the concerns we would have is that if, in order to do that, the people that would be working with collect forms and testing all would be required to be administrators of EQuiS Enterprise, kind of a big concern, and I just want to maybe get some clarification on that.
Okay. Yeah, that's something I can definitely look into, as I'm not the most familiar with the administrative role aspect. That's a little out of my realm. I can definitely get you that answer. Now I completely understand and the complete clarity of the question. I can definitely get you an answer. I have a feeling that you can limit what their administrative role will be as to where they are limited to, but I will definitely get you that answer.
Yeah, that would be good.
Can I intervene here again?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, this is a little bit out of our field as managing Edge and Collect. However, we do have that concern from different clients. So this is the other team that deals with that. And as far as I know, the access and the privileges can be fully customized. So that means that whoever is going to be the admin, they're going to have the right to design the forms, to push the forms. However, for the people who are in the field, they're going to have strict privileges that you can also assign to the fact that they're going to be able to see the form, maybe to push the form or not to push the form. So this is something that can, I have seen it happening. As I said, other teams are managing this aspect, and it can be fully customized in terms of privileges for different people. So there is no danger, let's say, for somebody who goes in the field to have access to enterprise and mess up with the forms.
No, for us, it wouldn't be so much the people in the field. It's like, so we're going to get project staff and everything trained so that we're not having to do all the form building and editing and stuff.
Oh, no, absolutely, they won't. They won't.
You can limit the access that they'll have. So you can set the access so that they can do certain aspects of it, but are limited in how far they can go. But we'll make sure that
would be great, because managing groups and stuff is fine. That we can do that as administrators, but I'd hate to have someone required to have that access, and then they've got full access to change anything about EQuIS Enterprise.
No, and that would be a big concern, because as you briefly saw from enterprise, building a form, it's really a very complex process. So I have been in the field myself. I've been a project manager in my previous life, I would say. So I know very well there is a very big difference between executing something in the field and actually designing in the office. So you want to make sure that your field techs are not able to actually play with the forms in enterprise. And that's something that we had in mind when we built this product.
Oh. Okay, that's almost clear. I get it on the field. Like I said, it is more of the office staff that are project staff that are designing and building forms for field staff, that we wouldn't those people to have full administrator level access to EQuIS Enterprise, because they would not be trained in managing EQuIS Enterprise. That's more of the data management teams. That's what we're called, is data management systems integration. We're the administrators. We wouldn't want to give that to anyone that had to build forms.
Yeah, we'll make sure that it can be limited to specified roles, and that way those specified roles have specified access.
Yeah,
and
that'd
we'll
be great.
look into that. Yeah,
really do that is there. We don't mind building roles. We do that in Enterprise 6 already to provide certain level of access to things. But it wouldn't, some of it is like one example I can think of is the Explorer widget in current EQuIS Enterprise. If you are not an administrator, the only thing you can do is look at stuff. Whereas the organization capabilities would be nice to give to certain staff, but that's at the administrator level, which then gives full power over EQuIS Enterprise. So.
Yes. Yeah. I completely understand.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Excellent. It looks like we have a question. Nope.
Yeah.
It looks like we've got all of the questions out of the question pane. So go ahead and take it away about the pre-built forms.
So this are just the last two slides. This is just what we're planning on building and having released in the first and second release. This is just a list of forms. So what you see on the left we're gonna try to keep them as generic as possible, because obviously every user, every company will specify the forms more towards their liking. So we're going to try to keep the forms you see on the left here a little more generic, but allow you to fully customize them as you go, delete what you want, manipulate what you want. And then these are the forms for Alive that we are currently working on right now and starting to get in production. And we're going to try and have as many of these available for release as well. And then just the upcoming sessions that we have. So this was the session today. And then we have a couple of upcoming sessions regarding professional and the Alive form showcase. So more on all the Alive forms that I just mentioned.
That's right. And I put a registration link to that session on July 12th, where we will talk about the Alive forms that are available out of the box. There's a ton of them, as you saw on that previous slide. And we're going to highlight a couple of those in that session. So if you want to go ahead and register for that office hour, you can do that with that link. In terms of the EQuIS Professional on-demand session, that registration link will be available next week. It'll be on our website, as well as if you're subscribed to our mailing list, we'll send out a reminder link for that. And if you're out of the office next week or whatever, that we will make those recordings available, in the future, just like we do with everything else. All
Perfect.
right.
And thank you for attending, and hopefully all your questions were answered or will be answered in the next coming days.
Absolutely. If you have any questions that come up after the session is over, you can feel free to email us at officehours@earthsoft.com. And if you've got any other questions, certainly let us know. So thank you so much for your attention, and thank you, Eyal, for your presentation, and Monica for being on hand to help as well. And I hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you all.